Thank you everyone for joining us today. It is our Lunar New Year celebration done virtually. This is actually our 12th year, so we have gone through the whole Chinese zodiac in doing this program, but this is the first time we've ever done it virtually. For the last couple of years, we have had the Zhong Kung Fu Association doing their lion dance presentation. And we are fortunate enough to today have Nelson, who is the Shifu of the group, doing our presentation. So without further ado, thank you so much for doing this for us this year. And it was a great gift that you are able to do it, and I am very happy about that. So Happy New Year, and take it away.
Thank you, Renee. I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Nelson Ferreira. I'm from the Zhong Kung Fu Association in Madison, Wisconsin. And, you know, I am honored that they've asked me to do this presentation. The whole team is bummed out that we can't go to Janesville to do the show in person. You know, we always have a blast when we go there. So we hope everybody is enjoying it, you know, in the safety of their homes. And, you know, we'll do the best to kind of keep the positive energy and good fortune coming, you know, through the internet here for everybody. So, so again, we'll be doing a kind of like a little webinar presentation on the Chinese lion dance and the Lunar New Year, kind of like stories, customs, traditions, everything that kind of revolves around the lion dancing and the Chinese New Year's. So I guess, you know, the first question that we get a lot at a lot of talks is, how did the lion get to China? So, you know, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, the lions had a fairly large roaming area. So historically, they could be, like, of course, all over the African continent, Southeastern Europe, Middle East, the Caucasus area, the South Caucasus area, Southern Russia, Southern Afghanistan, and even the Indian subcontinent. So if you like kind of look at, really, you know, it's like right on the border there, you can kind of see that China is just, you know, beyond that. So it really, it's not like, you know, you're talking about Africa and then, you know, Asia, and there's desert in between in terms of lion habitat. So it did exist. You know, another thing, of course, it's kind of a bummer here is that, you know, you see the present distribution, which is much smaller, you know, so hopefully we can continue to support conservation, and, you know, hopefully the prides can continue to grow. But continuing on, you know, how I got there, one of the main ways that I got there was through the Silk Road. So the Silk Road was kind of like a trading route that existed for in between China and Europe and Africa, Middle East. So you have this this route that, you know, you not only went through land but also went through sea as well. So, and it connected the kingdoms of Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia. The Middle Eastern rulers of the time, where currently Iran is located, sent lions to Han emperors in China back in those days as a gift to help with trade, to, like, you know, have the them be able to trade freely in the Silk Road, because the Han Emperor did control a good portion of that particular trade going in and out of China. So the beginning of the lion dance appeared around the Han Dynasty, which is about 205 BCE to 220 CE, with the introduction of Buddhism to China, so which also was introduced through the Silk Road. During the Tang Dynasty, we actually see kind of like what they call the primordial, like the very beginning of this type of dance was at its peak. So it began this very primitive version of the lion dance, very different from what we see today. So how did the lion turn into a dance, which is another, you know, question that we get a lot in these things. So big thing about how it turned into the dance is you have this idea of stories, right? So there's these stories of how it came into being. And I think that the most popular story that people are familiar with is the Nian Beast story. So essentially it goes that the strange animal appeared, had a horn, and it would come out annually And because of that, they actually called it the Nian Show, the annual beast. The villagers every New Year's Eve would hide inside their houses while the beast would feed on the harvest fields and the farm animals. So one day a wise old man came to the village on New Year's Eve and noticed everybody hiding. So he asked, what was the matter? And the villagers told him about this annual beast. The wise man taught the villagers that the annual beast was afraid of the color red, as well as loud noises like gongs and firecrackers. So the villagers then, when the Nian arrived, ran out of their homes that were all decorated in red, including their clothes. They put red clothes on and banged on pots and pans and gongs and cymbals and all that stuff, as well as setting off firecrackers, making a huge ruckus. So this startled the Nian, who ran back to the mountains to never return again. And the villagers kept this tradition going on year after year. So it's important to understand that the idea is that the Nian Beast here is just kind of coming in. It kind of does bad things, right? But the lion that's used in the lion dance is not the Nian Beast. The Nian Beast is separate from it, because actually the lion is one of the things that scares away the concept of that bad beast coming. So then you ask, like, okay, we know about the firecrackers, we know about the loud sounds and music and red and all that type of stuff. So how about the dance in itself? Well, this is the story that how all that began was the Emperor's Dream. And this is actually written historically. It's based on a book called The Emperor Qianlong Travels South. And it's during the Qing Dynasty, so 1644 to 1911. This story takes place around the 1700s, mid-1700s. So one night, the emperor dreamed that a sacred, colorful, and lively animal reflecting the 5 cardinal colors, red, black, yellow, green, and white. And these are also the 5 elements of China. You have like metal, wood, earth, water, and fire. So those are the 5 elements, and they're really important within Chinese thought. So this animal actually had all of these 5 colors, meaning that it was a fully harmonized and you could say like a divine beast. So, and the animal movements were graceful and somewhat comical. He ordered the court to create a head and costume, and then the soldiers were called to perform the movements and the music, and a celebratory dance was conceived from there. So the idea is that this music that comes out, the drums, cymbals, and gongs, and then this dance with the lion starts. And the whole point was that, they could celebrate that this beast was going to protect the emperor. And if it protected the emperor, for the Chinese, it protected the whole kingdom. So at that point, you start seeing this idea that the lion is really a good omen, and it's there to protect people from the emperor all the way to the lowest person. Another really interesting story, and of course that ties in with the performances that our school does and many traditional martial arts schools do, is the monk taming the lion story. So this is the 3rd story. Now keep in mind, there's a lot of stories about how the lion comes into being, but I picked these 3 just because, one is the first one that we talked about, most important, like kind of what everybody knows. Second one explains a little bit more about this idea of creating a costume and making a dance. And then this 3rd one kind of explains not just the lion, but also the monk. So there's a monk that was called Dai Tao Fa, literally big-headed Buddha. So, and this monk was actually the tutor of this little lion. Okay, the monk would actually use this palm leaf to fan the lion to keep him, help him keep awake while the lion was studying to be a good lion. So the idea is that because this lion was at this Buddhist monastery, was studying to be a good protecting lion to people and to the temple. So the monk kept helping the lion to learn about being a good lion, and would use this fan to kind of keep him awake or just startle him. So when the monk was away, some say that the story that he went over to a river to wash his face, and when he came back, he found out that the lion had wandered away from the temple, went into the village and caused a bunch of trouble because people were scared of it, not realizing that, of course, this was actually a good lion, but it's kind of a scary animal. So when the head abbot found out about it, he yelled at the monk and told the monk that he needed to bring the lion back immediately. So the monk grabbed the fan and ran down from the temple all the way down to the little town to bring the lion back. So, and he would like scare the lion by just kind of like raising the fan up because the lion was scared of it, because it would kind of give a shock to the lion. So that felt like heavy and hot for the lion. So it's important to understand too why we use this type of fan. So it's a big palm leaf fan is what we use for these performances. And the reason why is because there's this concept in Chinese language, which is like the homonym, right? So words that sound the same. So in this case, the big palm leaf fan is a da kui shan, and it's a homonym for repelling and dispersing evil, or also literally like beating, evil beating fan would be another way to look at how this could be translated. So the idea is that, this fan is very, very powerful. So in our performances, our monk always has this particular style of fan because of this idea of the homonym. So it's also there to disperse bad things. So when the Dai Tao Fa shows up with that type of fan, it's also there to disperse the bad things, bad energy, just kind of bring in all that positive, good stuff. So then the question is, who is the big-headed monk? Well, we found out earlier that, was up in a mountain and had a pet lion that was teaching to be a good lion, right? So, but in the performances, the Dai Tao Fa is a comical character in many of the lion dance. A lot of people really enjoy when the Dai Tao Fa comes out, and he's supposed to be, kind of a fun guy. So the term itself translates, as I said, big-headed Buddha, and as part of the performances of many traditional Kung Fu schools. As a matter of fact, usually the person that performs Dai Tao Fa has high Kung Fu skills. The hand fan, like I had mentioned a little earlier, being called the Da Kui Shan, has important meaning and context to the lion dance, like I said before, and this idea of the evil beating fan. So again, better shot of what that fan looks like. And you'll always see our Dai Tao Fas using those fans. So the Dai Tao Fa also helps during the routines, right? So the most important job of the Dai Tao Fa is to be vigilant during the routine. If the lion accidentally steps on an object like a bench or a basin or a stone or anything in that matter, or even like the greens that are on the ground, it ends up messing it up a little bit. The Dai Tao Fa has to straighten that out and kind of, make it correct. And also the Dai Tao Fa kind of plays as sort of a watcher. So he makes sure that people don't come in the area that are not supposed to, or that ultimately the lion dancers are safe while they're performing. So because of that, the Dai Tao Fa has a lot of responsibilities, and therefore usually it's played by the more experienced team members of the school. So I wanted to play a little video clip of just a little bit of a performance that the Dai Tao Fa here. We have two of them, one in blue and one in yellow, and they are going to be waking up our lions. So you've probably seen this before at our performance. So that's a little bit of like what the Dai Tao Fa does. So let's move on to why does a lion eat greens and fruits? So in a lot of the performances, especially when we did it at Hedberg Library, we do performances and you can see that the lion gets like some mandarin oranges and also some lettuce, right? So there's meaning behind that, okay? So the idea behind that thing is there's this performance that's called catching the greens, right? So in Chinese, the word catching, in Cantonese choi, and by the way, in Chinese you have Mandarin as the main language, and but the lion dance that we perform is the Cantonese style of lion dance. So there's a lot of the terms are actually used in the Cantonese dialect. So so choi also sounds like vegetables or wealth. So it's kind of, again, that homonym. We're going to hear a lot about this here. So the lion approaches the green or the arrangement and eats the green and spits it out. So the idea that the lion eats with simply like a vegetable and spits out fortune for everybody that's present. So it's important to understand that this is the idea that the lion actually has power to transform something that's just ordinary, so just lettuce, and turn it into fortune. So anything that the lion is touching is lucky. It's a good thing. It's so if you get licked during a performance, that's a good sign. You're going to have luck for the rest of the year. So a little bit about history of this idea of the Choi Chang, right? So the practice of the Choi Chang began as an old folk custom of farmers in the province of Guangdong, which is southern China, right? Who during the New Year period hung vegetables in front of their doors. The idea was to put fortune in front of the house so that the arrival of the New Year brought auspiciousness. Putting the greens in front of the door is called greens in front of the door, literally like Mun Chin Luk in Cantonese again. And the lion dance teams would visit these houses and eat the greens and spit the fortune through the door, through the house doors. So that's one of the things that you see in these type of performances, and why it became so popular, because it's almost kind of like a sort of a Halloween sort of thing in which you put the candy out, but literally they grab the candy, they throw it back in. So the idea is to bring that fortune, and lion dance troops would go and visit each one of the little houses in the village just to do that. So this created this whole idea that making fortune and happiness enter the house with the lion dance popular, especially for the Cantonese style lion. So nowadays, this type of performance is more common during Chinese New Year's festivities. However, it can be done in any event that aims to bring prosperity and happiness to a group of people or a specific place, right? So you see this in lion dances at weddings, at birthday parties, at grand openings of businesses, or even groundbreakings for new constructions. It happens all over. So lion dance troops during the 2 weeks of the New Year, though, visit homes, restaurants, businesses, and shops in the community to perform the Choi Chang. The lion plucks the auspicious vegetables that are hanging from a pole, placed on a table, or directly on the floor. It can be any type of place. Sometimes they're put really high to make it really hard for the lions to get it. Sometimes they're just on the floor, but they're in a complicated position. So it's kind of like a puzzle that the lion has to figure out. So there's all sorts of different ways to, deal with that, with the grabbing the greens. So another thing that you'll notice too is red packets, right? So a lot of people call them hongbao or lai si, and they're very, very attached to Chinese New Year's. So for the lion dance, it has kind of a special meaning, of course, as well. So the greens can also include like auspicious fruits like oranges and tangerines, and this red envelope with them. So as I said, it's also known as lai si. The envelope contains money that is a donation to the lion dance teams to use for their school to maintain equipment and buy new supplies for coming years. So a lot of the money that's donated by people, by either the institution or the business or the people that are present watching it, that money is used to help the school out with the costs of maintenance of equipment, because equipment is quite expensive, and also travel and that type of stuff. So we, of course, very much appreciate the red packets during the performances. A lot of people like to feed the lions. So one thing I would say is that wait for the right moment. You don't want to run out in the middle of the performance. Otherwise, that Taufa might have to get in the way. So, but yeah, we do certainly appreciate the red packets as they're fed to the lions. It's kind of a fun part. Our students enjoy it quite a bit. So Choi Cheng performances, so this idea of grabbing the green type of performances. I'm going to play a little video clip here, and on the side, I'm just going to, while the clip is playing, it's not very long, but I'm going to just kind of also put a couple of pieces of information. I'm not going to talk this so you guys can hear the music, but I'll just kind of go through the parts here. So this is a performance we did at a supermarket called A-Mart over on the west side of Madison. So as you can see, the lions there were kind of grabbing the oranges and kind of launching them out to people. And these are, when the lion does that, it's actually gifting you that their transformation. So it could be like, you know, as I said, there's meaning behind all of these things. So if you receive orange, I would explain the meaning of that, or a mandarin, or even a piece of lettuce. You know, this is good luck. So you want to kind of, you know, it's not, don't get out of the way, don't throw it back at the lion. So then what's the meaning of all that stuff? So if you look at this picture here, here's a very, what they call an array. It's a very complicated one. As a matter of fact, you can see that there's benches and there's red packets, and then there's lettuce hanging. There's even some martial arts weapons around, and, you know, there's all sorts, there's a pomelo, sugar cane, all sorts of stuff. So there's meaning to all of these things. So when you see these type of setups, there's a reason why these things are set up, right? Usually here we do a lot of simple ones, but, you know, it can get really complicated, and we hope to in the future be able to show a really complicated array to everybody, because they're fun, especially if you understand the meanings behind it. So symbolism, right? So many Chinese characters share the same pronunciation, that is, they are homonyms. An important association between certain words and objects was created within Chinese culture because of that. These objects became important symbols for the people. Certain objects have become symbols because of their pronunciation being similar to words that are auspicious, as well as other objects have become symbols due to their mythology, history, or cultural associations that the Chinese people have observed. So in this example here, you can kind of see this, you have the Hexia, sounds like Hexia, which is crab on one instance and harmony on the other instance. So here's a great example of two words that sound very, very similar, and because of that, the word has an association for things, right? So I'm going to go through a list here of a few items that are pretty common in performances. Some of them are not very common, maybe in our performances, but, you know, hopefully, again, as I said, in the future, you might be seeing one, so maybe you identify it. So mandarins, these are pretty common to see. In Cantonese, symbolizes gold. So they're both pronounced gam, right? Oranges symbolize happiness or blessings, and this is true to both in Mandarin or Cantonese. So apple, ping, symbolizes peace, and again, also in both Cantonese and Mandarin. Pineapple, ong loi, and this is in Taiwanese, in Taiwan, there's an actual language that's separate from the Mandarin as well. And this one actually symbolizes prosperity arrives, wong loi, ong loi. So pomelo, which symbolizes to have. Okay, and the reason, so for example, if you have a pomelo with a mandarin in an array, that means to have gold, right? So it's an important thing to think about. Bananas, which in Cantonese symbolizes to invoke. So in this case, you're talking bananas with mandarins to invoke gold. So, and funny enough, peppers are also symbolize the same thing, invoke. So you can see here, you have Ju 1 for banana and Ju 1 for pepper, right, is the same Ju 6 for, sounds similar to it. So sometimes you might see like a centipede that's made out of apples, and the body is made out of apples, and the legs of the centipede are made out of these peppers, and that's to invoke peace, is the concept behind it. So seaweed, the fat chai or fat choi, it sounds like become rich. So very common to see, especially in regular meals. Green, as I said, the chai or choi symbolizes wealth. Carps, like the fish, right? Sounds like huge profits. So sometimes you might see a carp in a performance, or like a pond. The lion dance team might make a little pond and has a whole bunch of carps in it. It's supposed to mean that, oh, there's going to be a lot of money coming to this business because of that. Bats, and here this is what the very symbolic representation of a bat looks like in Chinese. You'll see this around the foreheads of lions, and on a lot of other places. It's a very common drawing or representation to have to bring luck, because it symbolizes happiness, luck, or blessings. So in this case, you have 5 blessings coming around here. As a matter of fact, there's even a performance that's called the 5 blessings come through the door. And in that case, you have these oranges that get kind of launched through the door from the lion, one at a time, also representing these 5 blessings. So a water basin, this can represent a body of water, like a pond, a river, a lake, something like that. So if you see a water basin in a performance, there's meaning. It's important that the lion doesn't fall into the water basin. If it falls into the water basin, the lion essentially dies. So the lion has to really show its skills, its kung fu skills, or what they call the qinggong, which is the light skill, to be able to navigate properly without making the water basin tip over or fall into it. Benches, they may represent a bridge, a dock, a wall, or even a 4-legged animal. If the bench is on top of a table, it could represent like the peak of a mountain. So, and tables, that represent, besides a table in itself, it could be like a table inside of a business or something, but it can also represent a mountain or even a hill. So, and sometimes they have them stacked on top of each other to make it really high and make it very difficult and challenging for the lion to be able to overcome those obstacles. And ultimately, lion dance is about the lion being able to overcome obstacles and inspire people to want to overcome obstacles as well. Another thing that you'll see, especially with martial arts schools, is martial arts weapons used in these particular arrays. They can be used to represent a variety of items like fangs and pinchers, sort of like daggers or bladed knives and swords and sabers, and those type of things can all be used to be like, fangs of an animal, or the pinchers of an animal, a spear, or a chain whip, or 3-sectional staff could be used to the body of a snake. A spear kind of standing up could be the frame of a door, or a staff could be like a deadbolt on a door. Can also represent a wall. If it's on the ground, it kind of has this, it's dividing an area. It can even represent a fence or even a fishing rod. So martial arts weapons come in handy. A lot of times these weapons are once they're done being used, the group will show like a little bit of their martial arts skills, like a weapon set or something like that, with that particular weapon. So then what's a performance like? And for those that have seen our performances over at Hedberg Library, again, certainly appreciate you guys having us there. It's really awesome. But performances can be, very, very different. I'd say that broadly, they are categorized into what you could say sort of like traditional and modern performances. So the traditional performances are usually storytelling performances. And as I said, it's this idea that the lion is trying to overcome obstacles somehow by, doing something that's going to be difficult. Or it can also be a blessing. So the lion is blessing an area. So in this case here, we were at the outside of the library last year, and the lions actually come in and they do their reverence, right? So they do a bow, and then they come in and they lick the doors and they kind of bring their blessings through the door to kind of bless the whole area. So you also have this idea of blessing type of traditional performances or storytelling types of performances. And the storytelling performances can be have a variety of meanings. It can be something simple, just kind of like the lion going over for the Choi Chang, like I said, to grab the lettuce, or it can be a really intricate story about the lion waking up and then coming out of a cave and then eventually climbing up a mountain and then going through a valley, so it can finally get to the objective that usually is a head of lettuce, or it can even be what they call ling zi, which is what they call the flower of immortality, and then it eats it, consumes and spits it out to, again, bring this prosperity to all of the people around them. Again, the idea of the lion having to have courage, overcome obstacles, get the object and share that object with everyone is really, really important. And that's part of the main concept within lion dance teams, is this idea that we are trying to share with the community prosperity, good luck, happiness. So that's all part of the traditional performances. So here I'm going to show a little bit of a traditional performance that has the benches involved in it. Really short little clip. You'll see that just kind of, it's kind of a fun little thing. And that performance was done at the Overture Center here in Madison. So, and you saw there's a Dai Tao Phi in there, there's like the big-headed monk, and there's some benches in there. So it kind of, there's some acrobatics that get involved with it. And this particular story, we had like a mice on it, and it was Year of the Rat. So the lions are actually launching the mice out to the crowd as gifts, and also oranges. And then at the end, it eats the lettuce and spreads out the lettuce, all climbing up on this the benches that were supposed to be mountains. So in this case, so then continuing, then you also have what are modern performances. And modern performances now are very because if you go online, you can see a lot of this type of stuff. There's teams in the past few decades have they do these things called Zhongs, which are like these poles, and as you can see here in the picture, there's like this lion is actually, there's two people. If you see here, there's front feet here and then back feet are here. There's two people on this tiny little pole, and there's the lion dance that they perform on. It's very acrobatic, very difficult to do. This is something that our team hopes that, with support, of course, from the community and whatnot, this is something that hopefully we can start performing for in the future for everyone. But it is a very high level of a commitment for the team members. And you see this a lot in Asia during Chinese New Year's. Sometimes you see them on the West Coast, and they do performances on these what they call zhongs, or high poles. And I have also here a little video clip of just to give you a taste of what it's like, the high pole performance. This is not a performance in itself. This was actually part of a competition that we had in Madison for the United States Dragon and Lion Dance Federation, had its national championship in 2019. And this was one of the teams competing at at that tournament. So, and then this team actually is from the Colorado Asian Cultural Heritage Center, and great people. They're actually part of our lion dance family. We do a style called Sarping, and they are actually part of our U.S. Sarping family and also the worldwide Sarping family. So yeah, it was a really, really good. Everybody very excited about it. So, and as I said, this is hopefully something that, in the future, our team can, bring to local performances here. So next thing we hear is like, what's the lion made of? So we're always kind of getting that question of like, what's the, how is the lion constructed? So very quickly here, like this is what a frame looks like without the paper mache and the paint and the fur and all that type of stuff. This is the basic frame. The frame can be made out of bamboo strips, or sometimes rattan. Can be pretty heavy when it's done with rattan. Bamboo strips are usually fairly thin, but they also have a frame that has that goes around the base of the neck. So if you're kind of looking at the picture here, there's a frame that goes around this white stuff here. And then there's like two bars, one on each side here for the person to hold it while they're dancing. It has a movable mouth, and also the eyes can actually blink from that. You see there's a little pillow on the back side of it. That's for the lion dancer to be able to put their head in there without destroying the animal or hurting themselves, because of the bamboo strips can be pretty sharp at times. And there's also a little pulley system that controls the eyes and the ears. So you can kind of see a little red cord here that controls that. So then what does the head look like? As you can kind of see, there's several different types of heads. The one I'm presenting here is what's called the Hooksan lion. It's actually one of our lions. We took this lion actually to the 2019 International Championship in Macau, China, and our team actually took second runner-up for the tournament. Very proud of it. But you can see there's also what they call Fatsan, and the Fatsan lion kind of has a little curve on the mouth on the top instead of having a flat mouth. There's lots of other distinctive features for the lions, but we'll talk about the lions that we have at our school. So as you can see, it got the fur. It has the paint. It looks sort of like flames, kind of all over the body. The name of our school is our Chinese name of our school is around the neck of the lion. It's a collar that goes around it. And on the very back here, this character here is the same as this one. It's just a stylized version of this, and it means Yi, and Yi translates ultimately sort of as justice. The name of our school is Zhong, which means loyalty and justice. Together, it's kind of the concept is to do the right thing all of the time. So that's kind of what our school wants our students to learn and propagate. Through being good members of community. So, and of course, lion dance is a great way for us to be able to reach out to community on it. And then of course, unfortunately, you kind of see it on the top here. There's a horn on the top of the head. Can't really see it from the side shots too well, which of course, people are like, wow, why doesn't lion have a horn? Well, it's part of that mythical beast creature that we talked about. They say the emperor had a dream and saw this horn on it. So that's why you have a horn there. And here on this line in particular, you're seeing a symbol on the front of it. And that symbol of actually our group, our Sarping, as I said earlier, our Sarping family has this. Sometimes you see us mirror on the front of it. And the idea of the mirror is to actually kind of disperse negativity and bad things that are around. So that's why that mirror is there. During performances, we do ask people not to touch the mirror or the horn of the lion. It's considered bad luck. So, and also if you touch the lion, to be very gentle with it, because even though we dance with them and they're built fairly sturdily, they can come apart. So it's best to be gentle with the lions. And also remembering too, if you're patting the back of the lion, you are patting the back of a student under it. So it's really important to remember that. Just, be careful where you're touching and how hard you're tapping the lion. So a little bit about the body, as you can kind of see here, it usually has sequins here. The tail in this case was flat, kind of moving. So I guess the picture caught it when I was on the down. But on this line on the back, you kind of see it's got a nice fluffy little tail. It's very cute. That kind of brings some of the energy of the lion up. And as the lion dancers are supposed to make it look like a real lion by keeping a good position. So if you look, it's kind of almost like it's all together here. And another thing about lions is that lion dancers are supposed to interpret 8 different types of emotions, like happiness and joy, and even anger and excitement, sleepy. There's all sorts of emotions that you need to work on portraying. So it's a really good presentation will show all of them. But in the case of the body here, you also see these 3 little stripes here. These are called general stripes or tiger stripes. They're supposed to represent fierce lion or even a martial lion. Since our school is a martial arts school, we have those on some of our lions. We're slowly moving towards getting all of them to have them. And usually you have sequins for the body to be a little bit light, because otherwise it gets really, really heavy. And you also have these shoes with shoe covers that look like paws. A lot of times you don't use them unless it's a really, really special performance or something that's like a competition or something, because they do have a tendency of getting pretty dirty and they are quite expensive to buy for the whole team. So usually only have a few people who actually have those. So continuing. So what's the music like? So the music, as most of you seen, traditionally is a drum, cymbal, and gong. And it's important to kind of keep in mind that it's not just any type of gong. The gong that's used is actually called a daluo, which is a big, broad-rimmed gong. It's a specific type of gong. It's not just kind of any type of gong used. The cymbals are also very specific in size. They usually can go anywhere from like about 10, 11 inches to about 13, 14 inches. So it's somewhere around there. If it's much smaller than that or much bigger than that, those are different types of cymbals that are used for different types of music. And then the drum itself has a specific, they have tuning forks inside of it and has specific sounds. So they are different from even like northern drums. And notice they're open at the bottom, and they're specifically for lion dancing, like Cantonese style lion dancing. So here's a little bit of music here. It's a piece called Fagu of our team doing, and they kind of also show how we wrap up the performance. So hopefully. And that's another type of performance we do, which is called a drum array. As you can see, we have several cymbal players. Usually have only one gong player. we can have 2, and we have anywhere from like 2 to 5 drummers playing all together, playing our specific style of music. As I said, Sarping style of music is what we usually perform at these performances, which is the same music that's for our style of lion dancing. So a very specific style of taught by my Sifu, which was our grandmaster, Chan Siu Ki. So what's a practice like? So practice, we have pre-pandemic, we had practices twice a week. We had a kids practice during the week, and then we had an all-group practice on Saturdays. And hopefully we hope to get back into that as soon as things can kind of normalize. Currently, everything is on Zoom. We actually do continue our practices weekly. It's just Zoom practices. But yeah, we actually have to divide things into music and skills. So like there's higher skills being practiced by some people, the lower skills by people who are just beginning. And, so it's like a very important that the whole team works together to help each other out. And here's just a very, very tiny little clip of what a practice session looks like.
So you get more. And then you all are going to play. Here's the crowd.
So you can just kind of see, use the space and kind of get ready for performances just by practicing these different skills. And there's one group working on music, another one working on the higher skills here with the benches, and the other group in the corner was actually working on some very specific important points of the basics of the performances. So another question we get a lot is, can kids lion dance? Yes, they can. They're the future of our group, of course, so we're always excited. We actually have specific kid-sized lions with their pants and everything, and these kids are very, very hardworking. Even through the pandemic, they keep working, so it's really inspiring to see all the stuff that they're doing. So yeah, kids do lion dance. As a matter of fact, when we went to China for the competition, there was even a junior competition there that we had a couple of our kids compete in. So and they took bronze. We went there 2 years, took 2 bronzes. So the teams are fun, and they're, lion dance is a fun activity, and it can also be a great sport to practice as well. So I guess I'm kind of getting here to the end here. So question we get is, where can you find us? So again, as I said, we're on East Wash Avenue in Madison. That's our phone number. Also our website. You can find us on social media. We have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, and a YouTube channel. So you can find us through that, and feel free to contact us, either by shooting an email to us or a message, or even calling. More than happy to talk about either performing for you, or if you want to join. It's important to remember too that we are always looking for people to learn and to learn the style that we're doing, and get to enjoy lion dancing, all of its cultural aspects, and be part of our performance group. And besides being part of the school, which is a great way to get to know more people and learn about more cultures, and Chinese culture in particular, of course. And then to finalize, just wanted to say thank you with a little performance here of us doing, again, as I said, we do a style called Sarping, and what I'm going to show is a little clip of a step called Happinong, which is pretty specific to our style. And again, as much fun as it may be to do the head sits and spin around and do all the fun tricks and stuff like that, the art is really the foundation of it all. And so here you're going to hear, as I said, Happinong. It is a difficult pattern of music. It's also pretty important to understand how to do the dance per se with the music. And so this is part of our Sarping style, and it's by no means perfect. We still have a lot to work on, but we're very thankful that my Sifu, Grandmaster Chan Siu Ki, keeps teaching us and keeps improving us. So here's a little thank you, Dan. I guess last thing is Happy New Year, and I guess we can open up the Q&A session now. So Renee, do you want to hop
Thank
back
you.
on?
Yeah, thank you. That was excellent. That was actually a very nice virtual representation of what we have usually here at the library. So thank you so much. And before I forget, I just wanted to let people know if they want to review this or share it with anyone, we will have it posted on our the library's YouTube channel. So Hedberg Public Library's YouTube channel. I'll try and get it on sometime next week. So you can review it or share it with other people. There is one question in the chat, Nelson, that says, you said that China was introduced to Buddhism during the Silk Road era. What was their religion before?
So the religion before that, and of course this is gets into more complicated things, but before that, you could say that the religion before it was considered popular Chinese religion, right? So there's an actual name for it. It's Taoism. Actually, is something that in many ways a lot of people think that Taoism existed as a religion during that time, but actually Taoism was created afterwards, and they had Lao Tzu being the founder, but it came afterwards. So prior to that, they had state religion. That was what the Chinese popular religion was, and a lot of this ancestral worship and shamanistic sort of rituals is kind of what was part of the previous religion. And then eventually that evolves into Confucian rituals and rites and that type of stuff, and eventually you get the Taoism and Buddhism kind of coming in as well, and everything coming at the same time around that all that time. There's this whole flourishing of ideas and yeah, but prior to that you could see it as a shamanistic and Chinese popular religion, which in a way is almost not religion. Many Chinese people look at that as just kind of, that's what they do. It's not even, they don't think about it as religious. It's like, that's just something that we do. So yeah.
All right. And then we have Brandon who has their hand up, and Brandon, you can unmute and ask your question.
Thanks. Shifu, what is your favorite part of the Lunar New Year?
Favorite part of the Lunar New Year is when everybody can get together and celebrate. So usually, like after the performances, there's something called Dai Po, which is when teams get together and they all eat together and party together. So that's usually kind of like one of the best parts of it. But I think that the best, I'd say that that's in terms of being a team, that's one of the best things. But I think that the best thing is to be able to, after the performance, to see people smiling and enjoying the performance and asking questions. And, that's really the type of, it's what you feel like, this is why we do it, is to bring happiness and prosperity. So I'd say that that's my favorite part. Externally is seeing everybody, enjoying what we're doing. And then internally is to be able to celebrate together that we're enjoying what we're doing. So.
Thank you. Another question in the chat. How did your branch of lion dance start?
So the style of Sarping, there's a long history with lion dance. In Cantonese, lion dance in itself began, in the Qing dynasty. So you kind of have, like, you'd say usually around the 1800s is when the Cantonese style lion dance come in with a style called Fatsan. They said the mouth kind of has a little round shape to it. Music is slightly different. Fatsan is also very popular with martial arts schools. And out of that, there's about 40 years after that, you see this style that come out called Hokusan. It's important to understand that Fatsan and Hokusan are two different cities in China. So they're kind of, the styles were named after the cities because of the type of things that they're doing. So the branch that we do, the Sarping branch, was born out of Hokusan style. So, and the The reason why it's called Sarping is because it's a specific village within the Hokksan area, and our founder was actually born there, and that's his ancestral home. So that's why we call it Sarping. And in many ways, it was developed by Master Louis in Singapore when he was living in Singapore, and it kind of spread in Singapore to Master Ho, which was my grandmaster, and then Master Ho taught my master, Chan Siu Ki, the art as well. He's the third generation. So yeah, so kind of as I said, its birthplace is the Sarping village, but it really developed itself in Singapore. So.
There is another question in the chat. Is there a certain number of lions that can perform at a performance? I heard that the number was significant.
It all depends. So at weddings, 2 lions are usually the most common because they say good things come in pairs is a Chinese saying. So having 2 lions at a wedding is really really prosperous. But even though numbers are quite important in Chinese culture, you could say that having 3 lions is lucky, or having 8 lions is lucky. Some people don't like the idea of 4 lions because the number 4 in Chinese sounds like the word death. So, and then when you have it's like 4, which is almost like 2. You have like death because the lion sounds like 4 as well. So, so some people don't think it's appropriate to have 4 lions, although there's a lot of teams that don't have any problems doing 4 lions because in a way kind of they think about it as 2 pairs. So, and because a lion is such a lucky animal, it's not that type of stuff doesn't really affect the lion. is the other way to look at it. So, but yeah, it all depends, and it also depends on what kind of a performance you're doing. We could be doing a lion performance that each lion represents one of the cardinal colors, like I was saying, or the elements, right? The 5 elements, or the 5 happinesses, or it can also mean that you have these generals from the 3 kingdoms period. And each lion can represent one of those generals, and you have dances that have 3 lions, 5 lions, or 8 lions, and all. It all depends on the story that's being told. So, yeah.
So this question is actually from me. This is the year of the ox, which is my year. And is there any significant meaning for each of the years, but starting with year of the ox, I guess?
Significant meaning in what way? So, like,
because,
what's supposed to be coming from it?
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like for the ox, they say it's going to be like a lot of hard work, right? So it's going to be a working year for people, and it's going to be important for that. But that gets to be really complicated because it all depends on what you are. Many times the year that you're born, and it's the same year that so like if you're an ox and it's the year of the ox, a lot of times it's not a good year for the ox people. So like, for example, dog people on dog years are not the best time, and I'm a dog, and so like dog years are not the best years for dogs. So so it all depends. And a good and really interesting example is that dogs actually do extremely well in ox years. So it all depends on like what year you're born, what year it's in, and that type of thing. So that can be so complicated. In a very general way, you can kind of see as like year of the rat is supposed to be a year for opportunity, and year of the ox is supposed to be a year for hard work and that type of stuff. It all depends on who you are and where you are. So yeah, it's.
So basically, you're telling me I'm going to have a challenging year this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, they say that overall the year of the ox is supposed to be fairly good for most people. So I mean, I don't think the ox people get as bad of a deal as the dogs do.
All right, well, we have another question. Scott, you have your hand up. You can go ahead and unmute, ask your question.
So if dogs do good on ox ears, do oxes do good on dog ears and stuff like that? So like
usually that is the case. There's the reciprocity to it. So yeah. But again, as I said, it all depends, and it depends too on like how specific you want to get on it, because people can say, well, you're an ox, but the time of the day that you were born is different from the time of, so because in the Chinese way of looking at things, they have these 12 different hours within the day. They're not divided. There's actually 2-hour time blocks, and depending on that time of the day that you're born it all influences ultimately how it works. I mean, there's an overall idea that it's going to be good, but just buy lottery tickets no matter what. Just kidding.
Yeah, in a way, that is all very similar to the astrology that most people are familiar with. That it isn't as simple as saying you're a Virgo because you were born on this date. It also takes into consideration other aspects too. So that's really interesting.
Exactly. It gets to be really kind of, the other thing too is I don't want to say, all right, well, if you're this, you're going to have a wonderful year. And then like next year, like we go to the library to do our performance and the person's like, my year wasn't so good. You told me it was going to be a good year. And I don't want to be responsible for that.
I agree. That's probably the safe way to handle it. So there aren't any. Oh, there is another question, a couple of questions actually. Let's see here. Whoops, I went too far. Is there a difference between the Vedic and Chinese zodiac?
Well, I mean, I think that the most obvious one is that when you look at like the Western, it's by months, right? And the lunar is by year. So that's like probably the biggest difference. There's a lot of stuff that's similar, but the way that they observe each one of the, I guess you could call them houses, right? It is fairly different. So I don't think that there really is much equivalency in terms of saying, well, the first of the Western zodiac represents the same as the first of the lunar zodiac. So, I mean, it's interesting because they both have 12 as their number, but one is a cycle of 12 years and the other one is a cycle of 12 months. So yeah.
Another question in the chat: do you set aside time in your practices to teach your team about the lion dance history?
Try to. It's like so a lot of times there's not a lot of time for it, but it's the type of stuff that's usually taught over time, so they get to learn it by experience. I'm a big believer in the concept of when the student is ready, the master appears. So the best time to learn is when it's time to learn it. So, and another of my big favorite sayings, and my students all should know this one, is experience is something you only get after you needed it. So yeah, so we do discuss some of this stuff, but I usually leave it to the student to inquire about it. As a matter of fact, that's a big thing about our school, is that our methodology is that we want to see where the interest of the student is by them asking questions, not simply by waiting to be told what to do or what to think or we want the students to actually like think about it. And obviously if they're asking questions about why is this or can you explain this, or then it shows to me that they're interested in learning. And then that means, and then that's how you gain more knowledge. So in many ways, it's not set up in what you could say sort of the traditional Western, here's the curriculum and you're going to learn this thing like this. every student of mine kind of learns things differently, and it all is to suit depending on their interest level, their dedication level, their commitment level. You know, all of those things vary, because some people, it's not to say it's a bad thing, but some people can only make it once a week, you know, or can only make it once every other week, you know. And then there's other people that are there 6 times a day, 6 times a week, you know. So obviously their experiences are different, and I can't expect the once a week or once every other week to be able to handle the same stuff that the one that's there all the time is going to handle. So all of those things fall into how I teach. So like, in a way, each student has their own way of being taught and how they learn. So.
And I like that. I think that way of teaching also helps for the students to retain the information better, because if you're just being fed information, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to retain it. But if you're gaining information because of an inquiry and your own curiosity, then it generally sticks a little bit better. So that's
Exactly.
very cool.
And in many ways, that's even how I feel. My Shifu just last year, he was talking to me, and he was a little bit upset because he felt that I just didn't I didn't grasp some stuff, you know, and like and of course, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not going to be able to learn everything very quickly, you know, because it takes time. And the following day in breakfast, you know, he met up with me. And he's like, "Nelson, let me talk to you." And it's like, you know, I think that my problem is that I just realized that you just haven't had time to digest what you learned. And I said, that's exactly it, Sifu. I have like notes of books and video and all this type of stuff. And I'm like, you know, every opportunity I have with him, I try my best to be able to capture things, but it slides, you know, because at the time I'm not ready, you know, I'm already being bombarded with whatever else. And you have to like learn, you have to think about what is it that I can learn here? And then what is it that I'll spare for later? So yeah, I think that's the thing. I don't want my students to end up having so much stuff that they don't have time to digest. And then later on, they're just completely lost and or confused. Like they think, you know, a lot of times it happens. Hominins is a good example of this. You may think, you say, oh yeah, this means that. And then you get the two things confused, and then you think that one thing means another thing. And, you know, so it's important to have it learned at the right time, at the right place. So.
Right. Well, there aren't any other questions in the chat, but I have another question. So in that image of the bats in a circle, in the middle, there was a symbol that I have seen quite a bit, actually. And in fact, I have a tapestry at home that has that symbol, and I have been very curious. There you go. So what is that symbol in the center? What does that represent?
So that's like a symbol for longevity. So it's, again, when you're talking about a blessing, right? You have the idea that you want longevity is a big thing. So so that's actually, and you see that as door knockers, as poles, as you know, it's a very, very common symbol. So and they do come in different styles too. So this is one representation of it. There's it all depends on the shape of what's being pulled. This in particular is a circle, but there's also some that kind of look like an hourglass, and they have the exact same thing, but they're just kind of represented. So it's a representation of this idea of longevity or blessings, period. So yeah, great question.
Thank you.
Good observation.
Well, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, here's my perfect opportunity, because I've been trying to figure out what that symbol means, because it is common. I've seen it a lot. And
Yep.
like I said, I have a tapestry at home that has it, and could not figure out what it was. So now I know. So
yeah.
So I don't see any other questions. again, I just want to say thank you so much. This was a wonderful experience, and I am so happy that you were able to do the virtual program in place of the in-person. And I'm really hoping that, although this year might be challenging for me, that maybe it will be good for the general population, and the pandemic will settle down so that next Lunar New Year we can have the group come to the library to do an in-person performance again. And I
You
think
bet.
that would
You bet.
be fabulous. So
We would love it. We're, you know, I know that everybody is excited and waiting for that to happen. So, you know, we do hope that that ends up happening. So,
yes, yes. So thank you again. I guess there are no other questions. Oh, I did say, I'll say it again though, that the recording of this program will be on the Hedberg Public Library's YouTube channel. And then also I put together some Lunar New Year take and make kits. So if you are here local in Janesville or Rock County, there were still several upstairs available. And I would say please stop in and pick one up. They have activities for kids and actually some recipes so you can make your own food for your own Lunar New Year celebration. So Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you so much, Nelson, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
yeah, thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. So
Thank you.
have
Take
a great
care.
one. All right. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.